Hello, everyone. Welcome to another day of Reddy's Reactions. Today, we'll be talking about the multitude of games that were played this previous weekend as part of the final week of the May Melee Qualifiers, including 3 games played by the Toronto Defiant. But first, we're going to be talking about some of the very key matches from around the league. Really were impressive to watch. So for those that don't know and don't want to know about the results from the qualification weekends, skip the next little bit and we'll skip ahead to the Toronto Defiant matches if that's what you're here for. But for the rest of you, we had quite a sorry to all the San Francisco fans out there, shocking turn of events in the West. In the East, we had an absolute thriller of a game between Shanghai Dragons and the Philadelphia Fusion to cement their spot in the May Melee tournament. With the Shanghai Dragons winning 3-2 on map 6 with a just absolutely stunning game, and Fusion Carpe really almost clutched it out for them. Really dominant performance from both of them. Really good showing by the Fusion, but a really good, really outstanding match to watch. And despite Carpe and the rest of Philadelphia Fusion's efforts, just came up a little short, and the Shanghai Dragons were able to move on. In the West, we had a multitude of just crazy games. We almost had I think it was almost a 5-way tie for the last couple spots in the West. If things had gone a little differently. But the Shock were able to win their game. Trying to find won their game as well later on. Or actually, I think it was before the Shock. So they started eliminating some of that tie scenarios. But we almost had a multitude of teams tied at 2-2 for the final couple spots. Then we had the qualify tournament, the qualify games, and Dallas Fuel. I mean, kudos to the Florida Mayhem for getting a big win, defeating the Justice, and moving on that way. But Dallas Fuel knocking out both the Shock and the Outlaws. And the Outlaws in 3-0 fashion. This just was something to behold. That was really impressive by them. Really good play by them. And that's going to set them up in a real good spot moving forward. And that, again, is with all the stuff that happened with Dallas Fuel. They're playing right now without a hit scan. And they were talking about the broadcast. McCree is the second most picked player in the league. Character in the league. So to play without someone that can play that character is impressive enough. And then to be winning with these unique styles, unique comps, and then winning against 2 of the top teams. Well done to Dallas Fuel. Just absolutely great, and I really am interested to see what they come out with in the tournament itself. But man, were those games they were definitely not a scoreline that anyone could have predicted. For anyone that did, show me your magic 8-ball, because that is surprising. Dallas is good. It just so were the Outlaws and the Shock. They had to beat the Shock and then beat the Outlaws. They had a very hard path to get through. Not to belittle what the Mayhem had to do. Mayhem had to beat the Justice, a very scary team that also went 4-0 prior to these qualification games. So good, good on them for getting that far. It's just the Dallas View is the talk of the weekend. Like, you can't not talk about it. Really well done. Really impressive games. You're seeing so many different comps and variations on different maps. Like, I was one of those few people that I understood goats, and I understood all the complaints about goats. But it was fun to see, a diva bomb that would win the game by killing 5 people. Because that's what it was. It was you going for these big ultimates, and that was the big combo. Was the diva bomb. Usually into a grab, and then a shatter to block to get rid of the Rhine shield. So that was enjoyable. I wish, again, I think I've said it before, I wish that in the Overwatch League itself, the Goats meta had played a little bit more like the rock, paper, scissors Goats that you saw at lower ranks. Between the Ana, the Moira, and the Zen. But it didn't end up working that way. But again, they were talking about it again this weekend that we had in that meta. We still had the Toronto Hunters that played differently with the ball back then, and they made it work. So just like them, Dallas Fuel are making it work and really, really playing well. Speaking of Chengdu, they also made it on from the east. So the Shanghai Dragons, the Chengdu Hunters, the Florida Mayhem, and the Dallas Fuel. Again, the surprising, maybe not so much from the east region. Shanghai Fusion could have gone either way. So, it's not a surprise that they're in, and Chengdu could have also lost that as well, but they played well. So not as big as a surprise. I'm trying not to say shock, because I don't want to hurt the San Francisco fans any more than they are already probably hurting. It's tough. They played well, but it's just Dallas Fuel came out to play today, on Sunday. And yeah, we were back to the Overwatch Season 1, Overwatch League Season 1 schedule with Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday games. I was doing the math a little bit, and it was, if you played it the hard way, so like Florida Mayhem and Dallas Fuel, you could have had as many games as the team in Season 1 did. And for those that don't know, Season 1, they were playing 2, 3, 4. You know what I mean? Like, you probably play at least twice every week. You had 40 games over the season. So, a lot more games with no break. It was grueling back then for the players. Like, I am not shocked that we had so many retirements that first season. So many good players. But at least now they do get a break, even if they are playing similar levels of games at the hardest way of doing it. So you have to, be the lower ranked seed in the game in there, and then win both of those games, and then you'll be playing similar numbers to the number of games that the teams back then played. But then you get this break, right? You do get some time off after the May Melee. The rest of the teams get a little bit longer of a break, so we can see if something changes over the next couple of weeks. Unfortunately, one of those teams is the Toronto Defiant, and we'll be going and talking about their games now. So, Game 1 on Friday versus the Justice was not a great game for the Toronto Defiant. Unfortunately, I did not end up... Well, to say it didn't end up going our way would be an understatement. We got 3-0'd. The Justice is they are a really good team. But I was, really hoping for a little bit better of a showing. I know the players were as well. And it just didn't come through. But because of the way the schedule was, they end up playing Friday, Saturday, and then if they made it through, they'd be playing on Sunday. So it was 3 games over 3 days, which is very tough. And so to lose that first one, especially in such dominant fashion, not great for the players' mentality moving forward. But they did manage to bounce back on Sunday versus the Spitfire. But that first game was just all Justice. The Justice were dominating that from start to finish. Not even, you can say, they lost 3-0. Of course they got dominated. There are 3-0s and there are 3-0s. Unfortunately, this was a less than close 3-0. But they bounced back again, like I said. So on Friday, they face off against the London Spitfire, which was one of those ones that, if you lose against the Justice, you're like, okay, they're one of the top teams in the region. It happens. Still losing 3-0 still sucks. But London Spitfire are not, they're still a good team. Any team can beat any team on any given day. But if you were to make predictions, you'd predict the Toronto Defiant versus the London Spitfires based on how the two teams have been playing so far. And it went off to a great start. After we lost the first map on Control, or lost first section, I should say, on the first map, but then won the next 2. Looking really well, looking really good doing it. Then we went on to Volskaya, which was a little bit rough. Ripa on the Zen was just really, just devastating. He was hitting some incredible shots. As you saw in the video in the background, he killed the DPS and I think it was Lastro to really win that map for them. But all of London Spitfire played really well on that map. So they're on to fight. They took it to 2 points, and they almost had it with a huge tie bank. But London Spitfire were able to battle back. And then Toronto Defiant were able to whittle down London's huge time bank into something more manageable, and almost won it out if it wasn't for Ripa hitting those shots. And then we went to Kings Row, which is good. You can see in the background. And so I really do like the changes. We're seeing these comps. Basically the big swaps we're seeing when you have the rush comp is McCree for Hanzo. Some teams are playing Doomfist as well, but when you have these rush comps, it's usually McCree or Hanzo as one of the swaps. And then it's the Diva versus Sigma. So even in that one style, what is popular, there's a lot of variation. And then you have the double bubble. Some teams have played full dive. We've seen Sigma ball as well. We're seeing so many different comps, and we're seeing variation based on the team, based on the map. Like I said, McCree is the second most picked. But it does lead to some interesting styles. And seeing Hisu on the Hanzo was just really impressive there. They managed to hold them before the end of second point, which is really big on Kings Row. Kings Row is one of those ones where you can go see teams quite often go the full length. Sometimes the time bank, it's a little tough. The third point is really hard to break through without a snowball effect. But Toronto Defiant holding them before that third point was really good, and it was really impressive to see these different variations. Right, you can see that Mulfig primarily wanted to go for the Sigma when they could, Whereas Michelle was playing a lot of diva, and it was just allowing so many different scenarios. Like the double shield, like having the second shield was really good, but Michelle was playing really well contesting. Like you can see Ripper right now just in the back, like just on the high ground, without the diva there to put any kind of pressure on him. He would have torn us apart. So really good adjustments and preferences from the teams. But this is trying to lose my train of thought there. But the fact that they end up both going, it's really hard when you have someone go Hanzo. It's hard. I've seen some teams struggle with saying McCree, just because of that long range damage and that McCree can do a lot of damage at close range when you get into the brawl. And then you just flashbang, fan the hammer. But Hanzo's storm arrows from a huge distance is a lot of pressure. Michelle had some huge eats all weekend. There were our favorite of eats overall, but Michelle especially, and I think it was on Havana here, where Michelle has like 3 or 4 eats in just this one match. Really big ultimates to eat, right? You have the dragons and you have the blizzard. Is really your only ones that would show up on the scoreboard. So that's the advantage of the diva. It's a little bit more manageable, that cooldown to eat these ultimates. Not to say that the Sigmas across the league haven't been doing their fair share. It's just they're getting themselves in really good spots. All the off tanks this year. We used to talk. It used to be a thing where it was one of those rare occurrences, but now it's happening quite often, or at least it seems to be happening more often than it used to. And I think that's just the off tanks are just getting into really good spots, and they're getting they're looking at the same areas that the enemy DPS were looking at to make these plays, and they're just putting them in spots to negate that. Which, if you can eat an ultimate, can quite simply just turn it right around, right then and there. Unfortunately, Toronto Defiant had a less than good time on Sunday, facing off against Florida Mayhem, who, as I said earlier, ended up moving on into the May Melee. All these games were tournament qualifications. They do count toward your standings, so getting these wins is very important. But so they play against the Florida Mayhem. Again, we're on the wrong side of a 3-0. And like I said, there's a difference between 3-0s and 3-0s, and this one was even worse than, I would say, the Friday game. The Florida Mayhem didn't seem bothered by the Toronto Defiant. Again, not to say that the Toronto Defiant played poorly. It was just Florida Mayhem playing really, really well. And to get on to the to the May Melee, you had to. So, out of 3 games for Toronto this weekend, 2 of them ended in 3-0 for the wrong team. But it was still good to be playing on Sunday, right? Giving yourself the chance for those extra games. And really still impressed by everyone. Like I said, I already mentioned Hisu and his Hanzo and McCree looking really well. Lastro continued to dominate as BAP. I don't remember seeing Ana that much from them this weekend. But I don't remember seeing that much Ana to be overall. There was teams that played it with a double bubble. That's when you would do it. And a lot of the games I watched, double bubble seems to be working best, or it does work best, when you have areas on the high ground where rush can't get to. So most of these teams were able to get to where they wanted to with these rush comps. Not to say that there were teams that were playing double bubble. Then there's the fuel. Playing whatever the fuel wanted to do. Like he's just hit. Like that's the other thing with the Hogs though, is that if you can get a headshot, you can just open up the fight, just like that. Open up. I just picked off the BAP. That's a fight win. 9 times out of 10, you're gonna win the fight from there. You lose most of your healing. You lose your immortality field. You lose a fair bit of damage as well. Especially if they had the amplification matrix ready to go, right? If the BAP lives and put up the amplification matrix, you do a lot of damage that way. But sorry, that was just one of those times I was talking about with Michelle eating the dragon to save that fight. So Michelle played really well. I'm torn. I'm torn for how I feel about the Baby Diva remix, because sometimes I'm like, no, you shouldn't go off the map, especially when in this place where there's no way to do it, so you have to go back to spawn and lose your ultimate, or lose whatever charge you had. A lot of times it usually seems to occur when it's your ultimate at full. So there's part of me that's like, I hate throwing it away, but it just seems like when they're Baby Diva, when anyone's Baby Diva, not just Michelle, it's just rough. It's not. They never have a good time. I do love the addition of the player cameras mid-fight, because you get to see the faces of the off tanks when they get staggered. Oh, this was huge. This dragon. Oh man. I mean, he did it. He was able to get the dead eye off. It just went right into his shield. But oh man, killing him with that was really, really, really fun to watch. Just because, it was, he had to go around the wall that way to get a shot with his dead eye, so he knew exactly where he was going to be, and then he can't move, or can't move significantly. So Hybrid did get his revenge right there with Lacero. Oh, and then I think he also wins this fight of Hisu. Oh no, Nice shows up and shows up and get him. But yeah, he got Lacero there just by waiting. And then they spawn camped them a little bit, but I believe it was Lucio Calyx on Lucio was delaying the cart. They're talking about it. Oh, he's so low. He was so low. That was an interesting end to it. Was the Sigma 9ing themselves? Unfortunately, they were too high up to contest the point at the end. But yeah, so unfortunately, 3 games for the Toronto Defiant, and 2 of them were losses. But we were able to win against London Spitfire, which was a 3-2 in the season, which is a good spot to be in. I am looking forward to seeing the Toronto Defiant again after the May Melee, but I am interested to see what happens at the May Melee next weekend. So this has been Reddy's Reactions, where I react to things from the Overwatch League, especially the Toronto Defiant. And again, these are unscripted, so that's why it's a little rambly at times. But this is just my honest reaction to these games. It's good to be back in Overwatch League season. It's good. It is a high quality season, at least so far. I don't expect that to change, but the only thing I think I could wish more out of it is that we were on Overwatch 2 and we had the push mode in it, because I would love to see the push mode back in the Overwatch League. So I really hope that they do it for a show match, maybe for the All-Star games later this year. But that's it for today. Take care and stay safe, everyone. Bye now.